is me, Susie Pettit, your certified life and wellness coach. Today, I have a special guest on the show. I have Tanja Shaw. She is a sought-after life and weight loss coach. She is the host of the Fit and Vibrant You podcast. She is the founder of a holistic health coaching studio and has helped thousands of women get to their happy, healthy weight permanently, naturally, and without the obsession that usually comes with that weight loss, so that they can live their life. Tanja, her husband Keith, and their son Jacob live in Chilliwack, British Columbia. Not sure I'm pronouncing it right, but it is about an hour outside of Vancouver, Canada. I think she's our first guest from Canada, so this is exciting, warriors. Today, she's on the Love Your Life show to help us learn and to bring awareness to how we can be kind and curious observers of our life and our patterns so that we can live that life that we love. We spoke of many things, and one of the favorite things that we spoke of that I like that she brought attention to is how judgment and drama can get in the way of not only our weight loss, those are two big things that get in the way of weight loss, but more importantly, they get in the way of living a life we love. And she gives us tools and helps us learn what we can do about that. So sit back, enjoy, and I love talking to Tanja, and I know you will too. So let's go, warriors. Thanks for being here. Well, hello and welcome to the Love Your Life show, Tanja. Thank you so much for coming. Thrilled to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Could you tell the listeners, I love human behavior and I love learning about why we do what we do. Could you tell the listeners how you got to be doing what it is that you're doing?
It's a journey, and we often teach what we need to learn. So my journey has really stemmed from personal experience. I used to always love health and wellness and fitness and all that kind of good stuff. Did my degree in kinesiology at the University of Victoria. And a few years after that, I really got into personal training and loved the transformation that people went through when they started to take care of their bodies. And how it improved their entire lives. And I loved that part. And around that same time, so it's been when I was in my early 20s, I did my very first diet. And for a lot of women, that's old to do your first diet. I'm like 20s. Yeah. Most people are like 8. But for me, I got to a smaller size, and instead of gaining the weight back, that this is most people's story, I became very obsessed about my size and weighing myself multiple times a day and double workouts and just living in fear all the time that I would gain the weight back. I remember going to Paris with my husband, and we were there in Paris, England for 2 weeks. And I remember the thought of just like being worried that I couldn't weigh myself when I was there, and what if I gain weight when like just stupid things that took me away from living my life. At the same time, I was also starting my business here where I live in Chilliwack, British Columbia, running a health and wellness studio, personal training studio, and I worked very personally with other men and women. And I used to think that they could just solve all the problems with, high intensity workouts and strict clean eating, and that was going to be the path to their success. And sure, they lost weight for a while, but no one ever kept it off. And as I start to get to know people, I recognize that information wasn't the problem. It's not like we don't know what to do. There's so much else that goes into this. And most people, it's about their relationship with food and their self. And of course, then I had to hold the mirror to myself and recognize that I was really struggling. And so it was about 2015, about when I actually started the Fit and Vibrant You podcast, I really decided to take a turn and to really focus on taking better care of myself. I started to read intuitive eating and those books, and I wished at that point I didn't read it because I was rejecting that. I'm like, I just want to know the next diet to fix my problems.
Right.
But it really started a journey about the psychology of eating and the relationship with self. And over the last few years, I've really taken that approach to coach myself and the men and women I work with. I work mostly with women now, especially online, to get to I call it their happy, healthy body weight, whatever that is to them, naturally, permanently, and without the obsession, because there's just this big gap in the diet industry. And they tell you to, like it's confusing anyway out there. It's like, which rules to follow? I mean, I don't even know. I'm confused too sometimes when I look at all the stuff. But no one ever tells you like what to do when, life happens, or how to actually create a lifestyle change, or how to eat in a way that makes you feel good. And it's not just about like, fitness and nutrition and water. It's also about your purpose and actually in your relationship with yourself and actually wanting to feel good. And I started recognizing that if we actually put intention into that piece, and sure, the nutrition education matters and what you put into your body matters, but we put more attention to the relationship with ourselves and the way that we think, then we could make so much more progress, and we can enjoy it and also make it a lasting change. So it's been a bit of a journey, quite a few years of layering on and learning more from experience and education and coaching, and making lots of mistakes along the way and learning as I go, and but always having the intention to do better as I learn more.
Yeah, well, I love your work for this reason, that you do help women with their wellness and their health, and yet it's not through a punitive, or really controlling, restrictive way, which is really helpful. I do think we've spent, as a society, so much time thinking about food and weight and our bodies and beating ourselves up, and what I love about your approach is you don't have that beating yourself up. And so how would you help someone who feels very critical and feels very much like they need to beat themselves up to get thin or to get in that healthier body? How would you help them start to loosen their judgment or grip meanness on themselves?
Really good question. And just like the work that you do, Susie, it's a continuum. And it's a step-by-step process. Not like we like jump across the Grand Canyon right away. We start to build a bridge and take the next step forward. So that's a really important part, because otherwise we start to beat ourselves up about beating ourselves up and about not having capacity with ourselves. And then we just layer on, and there's all this nonsense that's not necessary. Once is start to become aware, first of all, that there is another way, that there is another option. We have this very binary approach sometimes, that we're either like on or off, and we're either really restrictive, or we're just letting loose and like do whatever. And that there could also be an area called the gray area. It's a lovely place to live. It feels uncomfortable when you get there, but we can start to practice living in the gray area. So knowing that there is another option, first of all, and that when you're honest with yourself and you're really honest with yourself, you'll recognize that it never worked. And we think it worked because, it worked for that short term, and we punished ourselves into being a certain size for a little while, but then we rebelled about that, because we're going to do that when we feel constricted. We're going to try to escape the prison. Like when you feel like you are being beat down all the time, if there's an opportunity to escape, you're going to. And so recognizing, first of all, that there is another option is powerful, that what you were doing before wasn't working. And then after that, it's a process of slowly shifting our thoughts. I know you do so much work in the thought model, as do I, but our job isn't to stop the mean girl thinking right away. Those thoughts are going to come. They're going to come.
They're there.
But it's about being aware of them and recognizing you don't have to go play with them. You don't have to go entertain them. You don't have to go believe them. You don't have to go just act on them. They can be thoughts. They can come, and then we can start to shift them. And this is the power of having some affirmations or mantras ahead of time. Can be really fantastic to start with. And they could be really gentle ones. Like I'm in the process of learning to take care of my body. Even just being aware that those are just thoughts right now. Because, and I know you talk with the thought model a lot, but because they evoke feelings, we associate them, like we just accept them as being truths. I always think of it as when you're having a nightmare, and I don't know why I always think about like having a nightmare and these like killer sausages like chasing after you or something ridiculous like that. But in your dream, in your sleep, your palms are sweaty, your heart's racing, you
Mm,
feel so much fear because of this made up story,
mm,
because of these thoughts. And because you feel it, it feels so real. And when the mean girl, those thoughts, start coming, then you're going to behave a certain way, you're going to feel a certain way, you're going to, well, or not act a certain way. So you associate those as being truths because now they're becoming the reality. When you can just recognize, like, just like your nightmare, it's just a thought. It's
mhm,
just a thought. And then you can start to slowly shift that. And I think that's the power of knowing that something else is possible, that's something else is possible, and then starting to surround yourself also and shift your environment with more of the messaging that is in alignment with who you want to be, because we are very, like, are influenced by our environment.
mhm,
We all are, the people that surround us, our social media. And while social media is often, and media in general is often really propelling the diet mindset and the diet mentality, there's also a lot of other messages out there that are sharing more messages of body love and body confidence and trusting yourself and doing things that make you feel good. And
mm.
you can start to follow those as well. So it's a continuum, it's a learning process, and don't get upset or don't get discouraged when you do really well at it for a while and then you don't, or whatever. That's just part of it.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
Well, I really appreciate how you mentioned like paying attention to your input and what you're sort of feeding your brain in terms of the media and the news and the people around you and I mean, if all the people you're hanging around are always talking about the latest diet or I tried this and lost 5 pounds, and then you get that like, oh my gosh, they did, but here they've gained 10 pounds back. It's
Yeah,
helpful to pay attention to that input. And I also like how you're really just in the whole way that you're speaking, you really portray this curiosity about yourself and this, okay, the thoughts will come, they're here. And could you speak a little to that about how curiosity might help you to keep on your path of towards health and towards wellness, um, and to not quit, not think that something's gone wrong and oh, okay, well now it's over.
absolutely. I think the two things that get in our way of making a permanent change is drama and judgment.
Mm,
And judgment is all about, like, oh, I should have already had this by now, or I shouldn't have done that, or I can't believe I'm doing this, or why is it so hard? And which is also sometimes kind of dramatic, but we so quickly judge ourselves without, and when we judge ourselves, we don't feel safe, we feel attacked, we're going to defend ourselves, we're going to quit, we don't want to put ourselves out there anymore, it doesn't feel good. But when we can take out judgment and we can, again, this is why the curiosity mindset is so helpful, because it's hard just to stop judgment. It's
mm-hmm.
good to start to crowd it out with another mindset. But I think of it as like you're putting on your lab coat and you're becoming the detective.
I love it.
And you're like you're like curiosity detective mindset of, then you can start to really question your thoughts. You can look at your behaviors. You can look at things more objectively versus labeling like you're weak, you have no discipline, like
Mm,
you're doing this again. Here you go again. Why do you think this is going to be different? All these things that are going to come up. If we can take that out, then it allows us to use our more problem solving, higher thinking brain to actually troubleshoot versus just reacting to with emotions. So we can actually think of things more objectively. And you have a podcast I loved about, and you call it the child brain and the adult brain.
yeah.
And I think of like reptilian brain, but it's the same sort of concept, is that if you judge yourself, if you're just like hard on yourself, it's that reptilian brain that's going to react. It's a child brain's like, no, I didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Don't tell me that.
Instead of using your adult brain to actually say, hey, like, that's curious. Why
Mm,
did you do that? And then you allow yourself the opportunity to learn.
mm,
A while ago, I was speaking at an event, and then we had some drinks after, and we're out at this party after, and I'm introverted, And so it was like all day with people. And by the end of the night, like I was deep into chocolate covered almonds. Like there was lots of them like went down. And the next day I'm like, instead of being like so hard on myself, like, oh, you screwed up, oh, you blew it, and then make the punish, like then you punish yourself by either blowing it even more or
Right.
failing, whatever. You're like, I wonder, like, why did you do that? And then you actually start to answer it because you recognize that, okay, I didn't take breaks at all. I was around other people all day and the chocolate covered almonds were right there. And what were the thoughts that led to this decision? You allow yourself to actually understand what went wrong and how to move forward from that. How can you learn from that? And it's, like I said, judgment and drama are the two ones that.
I love how you brought up that example, because that really could have gone, and I know it has gone the other way for me, and I'm sure for you, where, you know, you have the drinks, you have the almonds, you have the chocolate, and then the next morning you're like, gosh darn it, and you either are then, you know, super restrictive, like, okay, I'm only going to have, I don't even know what, rice cakes today, or, you know, I'm going to go for an extra run or something. So, but you aren't learning from it. And I thank you very much for bringing that up, because it just shows a much, it's like softer or lighter. I'm like making a motion here if anyone's watching the video of just, it's like nicer, like softer way to sort of look at it. Like, oh, okay, so you had a lot of almonds. Okay, and I wonder why. Well, because you're an introvert and that was really quite painful for you. So next time, what are you going to do differently? And instead of then going into your day as this really mean girl to yourself, it's
Absolutely. And you nailed it there, Susie, with a calmer, gentler approach. And even that word calmness, again, this is where the drama comes in, is the drama is the other one that stops us from actually learning, is because we'll have that same event. We have the drinks and the chocolate and everything. And then the conversation says, I totally blew it. I totally went off the rails. And you're like, no, like, let's actually be specific as to what actually happened. Like, let's take away the emotion and just, as if you are, you know, doing a really boring narrative of what actually happened, because then we can start to troubleshoot, then we can start to solve some problems as well, because we often just, like, I'm so hungry right now, I could eat a horse. I'm like, no, you just are a bit hungry.
Okay.
You haven't
Oh,
eaten for a
that's
few
so,
days.
yeah, to get the drama out. So
Yeah.
you're not going to eat a horse. What
No,
are
you're
some other
not.
examples of the drama? I'm thinking of absolutely, like just saying I completely screwed up or I completely
I
blew
completely
it
screwed up.
with the
Even
almond. Like, no, you didn't. You had some you know, even if you ate 4 bags of it, you're still okay.
absolutely, you're still okay. Like, and just call it what it is.
Mhm.
And it shows up in all areas of your life. In work, like, I'm totally drowning in work right now. I'm totally swamped. Like, it doesn't allow us to go into problem solving mode where we can actually focus on the solutions. We're just overwhelmed by the
Mhm.
problem, and we just make it bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm so exhausted. I'm so stressed. Like, even like, I'm so stressed. I'm like, what are you like? Let's
Yeah.
define, like, what does that mean? How does it feel? Like, and stress is one of those ones too, that it's such a catch-all phrase for, it's real. Like, there's a response, but it's a catch-all phrase to, I'm actually fearful of this next step. I'm
Mhm.
not. So then we can start to identify what it is, again, without the drama, and have that curiosity mindset and start to actually take action and do something about it.
I
It's
really like
powerful.
I like that idea, even, you know, the drowning at work, to, as you said, to sort of fact check it. Like, well, what do you mean? Okay, well, I have 62 emails and, you know, one presentation to organize. And even just saying that just takes some of the drama out. It's like, okay, what am I going to do? Well, I'm not going to do the 62 emails right now, you know, or maybe
Exactly.
you are, maybe you'll do 20 of them, but you get much more neutral about it. Just like, okay, I have 2 hours, what's my top priority? I love that.
Absolutely. And then you can actually, because when you just feel like you're drowning in work or you're overwhelmed or whatever, what do? Like, we check out, maybe we
Mhm.
go on Facebook, or when we feel like we blew it with our diet, we go and overeat,
You
or
all the
just,
Oreos because you're like, well, I've already screwed it up, and you're like, no, but you
totally.
really haven't. Yeah.
Totally. So it is really powerful. And of course, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not like you're listening to this podcast, like, okay, here we go. No more drama, no more judgment. the dramatic thoughts are still going to come, the judgment's still going to come, but we can get better and better at, now that we know that there's another option and we know that it's a really good option to have, we can get better and better at practicing that. And then we can start to identify what are the things that are getting in the way. Like, for example, for myself, I would often be very dramatic with my husband. And I'd be like, oh, work was so this. Like, it was fine. But I would sometimes say that because I wanted to feel taken care of, or I wanted to feel like my job is important, or all of these things. I'm like, Tanya, like, really?
Yeah.
What do you, is there another way you can communicate that you want to feel? Because he does, he supports me, he loves me, he takes care of me.
Right. Do you
Like,
need to say it? Right. I love that.
do I need to be the victim?
Kind observer. You're being curious in a kind way of yourself. Like, I wonder why I'm making this so dramatic. I didn't even feel that bad. Yeah.
And then you can solve it. So it's powerful, and it does show up in all areas of your life. And it's interesting, now that you know about this too, you can start to identify in other people as well. Sometimes it's easier to do that. You're like, oh yeah, when she says that. And
yeah,
yes,
I've been, that's interesting. I really like what you're saying with the drama and the language. I have been aware, I've listened to Marissa Peer, and I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but she's awesome. And she wrote a book, I Am Enough. And one of the things she brings focus to is our language. And she gets very metaphysical about it, like your body's listening. And when we're saying this is killing me, or and to just be aware of what we're saying. So I have been bringing more awareness to what people are saying about that. But this idea, and similar to you, how you said, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. She brought up, like, I'm starving. And she's like, you're not starving. You could go without eating for like 3 days and be fine. Let's get a little more clear. I am feeling hunger now, or hunger is present, or, something to just, because if we're talking about weight and our, progress towards goals, and we say, I am so starving, then we are probably going to be like, yeah, that's why I need this Big Mac and all the Oreos, instead of being like, I'm a little hungry. What could I eat? It's helpful.
For sure. That's exactly what happens. And it becomes so dramatic that we're hungry or that we're starving. And you're absolutely right. We're not, I mean, if you're listening to a podcast, you're not starving. Like,
or even the overwhelm. It's that, like, when I know for myself, when I tell myself I'm so overwhelmed, I am much more likely to be reactive or inactive in my actions. I will either be like, I'm so overwhelmed. Okay, I need to get on Instagram. Well, okay. Did I get anything done? Like, I'm still overwhelmed when I get off Instagram. Or I just don't do anything and I just complain about it, which isn't helpful, and that doesn't move me forward either. But to get into that fact checking and say, okay, what is it that you're thinking about that's causing you to feel overwhelmed? And all right, it's because you have people coming over, or, whatever it is, and getting into that thought basis behind it. So thank you for that. Could you speak a little to, I know you talk about the importance of goals, and I would love to hear about how you set goals, either short-term or long-term, from a place of kindness. If it isn't this, when I get there, I'll be happy type mindset, then how do we set goals? Why not just sit on the couch?
Why not? Well,
Why not?
I'll say one more thing is that whenever you ask a question, make sure you answer it. Because sometimes you're like, why don't I just sit on the couch? And you're like, why don't I just sit on the couch? And then you can start to answer that.
Yeah.
So goals I struggled with for many years. And I actually found SMART goals totally uninspiring. And I found like there's a place for sure for them. And then I found goals goals were just complicated. I'm like, which one's short? Which one's long? How long should a long goal be? Which ones should they be weekly goals or daily goals or monthly goals, or
the rules? Like,
oh my gosh. And then
about setting the rules. Yes.
It's hard. And then also with SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, or there's all these different acronyms.
Time, I think.
And time. And then when it comes to your health and fitness, like pretty much the only one I can think of that falls into that category is weight, like body comp. I can't think of anything else, or maybe a speed for your 5K run or something like that. Excuse me. And that's not inspiring. Like, it doesn't make me excited to be like in the morning, like, I can't wait to lose 10 pounds by August 31st. Like, it doesn't make you want to get up. So we do a process called Inspire Goal Setting, and it starts with really like creating a big picture theme of what you want, and but not just what you want, but how you want to feel,
Mm,
because we ever want things because we think it's going to bring us a certain feeling.
mhm.
And so while we start with weight loss, like for sure, every woman I work with starts and we work on weight loss, but it's just, it's, we think that's going to get us a certain way.
Yeah.
And for
When
some
I
it
lose
does.
these,
Like,
whatever, I'll be happy. It's like,
I'll be happy when, and absolutely, weight loss can be a part of it. Like, we definitely can set weight loss goals. You can want to lose weight. There's like, that's absolutely great. Like, do it. And we work on that. But you need to get clear what you really want.
mm,
And whether it's feeling good, feeling confident, feeling connected, feeling at peace with your body, engaging in life is a big one. And these are things, Susie, that we don't even talk about. Like, no one, we talk about weight loss, we talk about that, but we don't talk about the cost that so many women are paying each day when they don't feel good in their body.
mhm.
That they don't, that like life is happening all around with them, and they're just not participating fully because they have all this other thoughts that are going up, like, should I eat that? Um, I'm concerned about, they want that gone. They want that gone. They want to feel good in their body. And so it's, and part of that, then we go through like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it look like? Like, what are, maybe there is where the weight comes in. Like, I want to be, 10 pounds lighter, 50 pounds lighter. Like,
Mhm.
that can be part of it as well. It's one part of it. And then we can look at, like, what is she doing? How does she living
Mhm.
her life? What kind of habits does she have? How is her thought process? We build that picture. And then we actually have a process. Like, here's what we don't do quite often when it comes to goals is we set a goal, even a goal like that's more of an inspired goal setting, like feeling goal, but then we don't remind ourselves of it. We don't,
Mm.
we forget, we don't read our goals. And
Yeah,
it's
New
so,
Year's comes and you're like, oh, snap. Right.
oh yeah, right. Oh, right. Or you totally forgot. It's like I just forgot what I had said.
Right.
So it's good to have routines, which is why we have our morning routine where we do this, where you remind yourself of what you want.
Mm,
So one of my goals for myself is to be in the best shape of my life.
mm,
And there's no hard metric to that. There's no like, oh, it's like yes or no, but it's a theme, it's a general direction. I think of it, I live in the west coast of British Columbia. I think if I wanted to take my car and drive down to Mexico because there's some awesome beaches there, I can start going in that direction.
mm.
But then I might stop in California and be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And that is where I want to be because I feel I love it there. So goals in those directions are just directions to head towards. They're not necessarily metrics to be
Okay.
met. Another goal for those
I
ones
really like
are
that. It's sort of like enjoying the journey while you're on there. It's not just
exactly, yes,
getting to Mexico. It's like you can have fun on the way and who you're becoming as you
absolutely. And you might,
go to
and
Mexico. You might be
maybe California is awesome. Maybe you're like, hey, this is like, San Diego, not, yeah,
right.
is it Carlsbad?
Yeah, Carlsbad, all that. Right.
I'm like, I could stay there for a little while.
Yeah.
I'll hang out. And then, and I have other ones like for my relationship with my husband. I have a kind of a mission statement, a goal of what I want that to look like. And then I have one for my business. And I
Mhm.
think of like, I just think of my purpose and I like to have a thriving business. I don't know the exact metrics, but I have
Mhm.
some guidelines. I have some things that I want. And then I have one that says I want to have more joy, more fun, less stress. Like that's what my mantra is, like on a daily basis. So you have these ideas and these get me excited. Like when I think about what I want, like these are like pulling me forward. And then every day you get to ask yourself, so what am I doing today to move myself forward there, to live that person? It's not this is like destination, but it's like if I am in the best shape of my life, if I want to be in the best shape of my life, what is she doing today?
Right. That does not keep counting on sitting on the couch. Like that means
No, no, no. She's the one who's going to get up in the morning, do her workout, and she's going to plan her meals. Like, and then we can have more like I like long-term big picture thinking, but then small daily actions.
steps. I do too. I like, and even, when you're talking about your marriage, I have one written here where I'm in a deep connected marriage that just keeps getting better every day. And if I have that as my leading force, well, then what am I doing today to work on that? That does not mean holding a grudge from last night when, you know, my husband didn't do his dish or whatever it is. It's, I like that a lot, bringing into focus the small daily action steps that lead towards your big goals. That's really,
For sure. And one thing you said there that's really powerful is that by connecting to like that action item, like with you or what you're doing to build this relationship with your husband, by having that leading force, I love how you describe it there, it links like the habit or what you're actually doing to the purpose behind it. So it's not just going on, oh, I'm going to go on a date night because I said I was going to go on a date night 3 times a week with or 3 times a week, once a week.
Yeah.
Whatever your situation is.
That's right.
My husband's out of town this week, so no date days for us, but
yeah.
It's not just that going through the motions of like, I said I was going to do that, therefore I'm going to do it, but you're connecting it to the purpose why, the intention behind it.
I really like it because then it gets exciting, and then you want not just this like, oh God, okay, I'm going. It's like, no, this is part of me, you know, my relationship constantly growing, or this is part of my, you know, being in the best shape of my life, or this is part of my growing business. And
absolutely. And then even though the actions stay the same, like you're still doing the things, you're still doing your workout, you're still, you know, planning your meals or eating your 5 servings of vegetables or whatever you are going to do today, instead of just doing it, because the actions are the same, but the feeling changes, the experience changes, because you're now reminding yourself like, I'm doing this because being in the best shape of my life, taking great care of my body is what I said is going to be my intention. Having a strong relationship with my husband and a deep, meaningful, fun, playful relationship, that's my intention. So therefore me doing this is not the absence of, I don't know, doing all my work, but it's actually, there's a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, I really like that, especially, you know, when you're talking about meals and you're thinking like, oh, okay. I mean, I know some of them might be like, oh, well, I'm having another salad. But if you're thinking, it's sort of the difference between that child brain and adult brain or the reptilian brain. Again, like, okay, right here, right now, it might taste good to have some chocolate is what you're telling yourself. But does that lead you towards the, you know, your goals and your long-term vision for yourself and that excitement? And then you don't spend as much time in the woe is me feeling state, which is not a place I like being so much.
No.
Yeah, that's really neat. Great. Well, this show is called the Love Your Life Show, and I would love to hear, is there anything you do, you know, speaking of daily habits or daily routines, anything you do every day to set yourself up to live a life that you love?
Yep. There's a couple things.
Where do I start, Susie?
Where do I start? I think my biggest tool that I use is my planner. And my planner is the one, and it's actually one that I use in my mastermind with the Fit and Vibrant over 50. But it's a tool that I use to remind myself of my intentions every single day. And then creating like the actual things I'm doing each day to do that and tying them together. And then the other one that, like I said, loving your life isn't about, you know, doing more necessarily. It's about where you put your focus. And so one of the things that, because I plan my day and I know what's happening and I ask myself questions like, what am I looking forward to for today? What can I get excited for today? Like those questions that prompt you to look for the opportunities to do that. Then I look at my calendar. So for example, this conversation today, this morning, I can say, what am I looking forward to? And I can start to feel the feeling and get excited about this interview versus just going through the motions of doing the things.
Right.
So much, and I know you coach on this as well, is not about doing more. It's about putting more intention into the things that you're already doing. And that shifts the feeling. And whether it is getting to sleep in for 5 minutes or having your morning coffee that you do every single day, when you have the intention of the joy and the gratitude and, you know, the excitement or getting to do it, then it changes your entire experience.
Oh, it's so exciting. I love it. Great. Well, tell me and tell my listeners and watchers, whether they're watching this or listening, where they can find out more about you, or if you're working on anything that you'd love to share.
Yeah, thank you. So the best way is, if you're a podcast listener, and I know you are, if you're listening to this, is the Fit and Vibrant You podcast. I release one about once a week. Sometimes there's a few bonus episodes in there as well. And other than that, my main coaching online is the Fit and Vibrant Over 50. Right now, I specialize in helping women over the age of 50 who are ready to write a new chapter in their life and want to lose the weight, like I said, permanently, naturally, and without that obsession. So that they can live their life. Like, that's the biggest thing. Because like I said, we don't talk about what really holds us back when we're not living our life in a body that we love, or that we just, and when I say love it, I do a whole other thing on body love. I'm not saying like, you have to like, I love my thighs, but
Right. Yeah.
body respect and not feeling good in your body. There's another option for you.
Well, and listeners, she has a lot of great podcasts on body love and body acceptance and body kindness and changing that negative voice in our head, a lot of what we were speaking about in this podcast. So head on over, and thank you very much, Tanja, for taking time today to help us all live a life that we love. Thank you.